Debt relief. The Civil War birthed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Today's fights, the tax the rich pushes, UBI pilots, or the next rebellion. What modern exemption pisses you off the most? I'd like to see the Constitutional Convention. Did the Constitutional Convention of 1787, were there any deaths in that? Let's take a look. Did the 1787 Constitutional Convention, was it bloodless? Because it was a constitutional revolution, since it dissolved the Articles of Confederation. If the 1787 Constitutional Convention was bloodless, what was the secret to making that so? 1787 is the Constitutional Convention. You had the Articles of Confederation, and then out of nowhere, these guys says, let's just scrap the Articles of Confederation and let's just, do this goddamn Constitution thing. And so, yes, it was entirely bloodless. You can't even say whether or not there was one goddamn, people were pissed off about this or that, but ultimately, a peaceful gathering of 55 delegates from 12 states, since Rhode Island had boycotted, met in Philadelphia Swelter State House from May 25th to September 17th. Without a single act of violence, arrest, or even a heated scuffle spilling into the streets. It was actually a master class in elite deliberation, far removed from the musket fire of the Revolutionary War. 4 years prior, no duels broke out. No tempers flared in private. The only battles were verbal ones over representation, slavery, federal power, hashed out behind closed doors. They're supposed to just revise the weak Articles of Confederation, which was ratified in 1781. It's what they fought the entire war under. But it was crumbling under debt, trade woes, and events like Shays' Rebellion. The delegates blew past their mandate. They scrapped the one vote per state unicameral Congress, birthed the bicameral legislature with proportional representation, a strong executive, president, judiciary, and mechanisms like the supremacy clause to bind states to federal law. This wasn't tinkering. It dissolved the loose League of Friendship under the Articles of Confederation, which required unanimous consent for changes, and forged a consolidated republic, risking treason charges for overreach, but ultimately ratified by special conventions in the states by 1788. It was revolutionary in scope, yet velvet-gloved in execution. As for the secret to keeping it bloodless, pun intended, since secrecy was the linchpin, it boiled down to a deliberate design that insulated the process from the mob violence and factionalism roiling the young nation fresh off Shays' Rebellion, where debt-strapped farmers in Massachusetts nearly toppled the state government. Framers like James Madison feared public leaks could spark copycat uprisings or sabotage from anti-federalists such as Patrick Henry, who skipped the convention. Here's the breakdown of what made it work. 3 things: the ironclad rule of secrecy. Number 2, elite consensus and Washington's gravitas. George Washington was the chair. George Washington's gravitas was very, very important. We would need Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. If Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would just chair a constitutional convention, there's a lot of heavy hitters. I would think even even Al Franken now, but I was thinking Step Brothers. What's that guy's name? Will Ferrell, or I don't know, Mark Cuban. What's that? Marky Mark. Daddy's Home guy. What's his name? The Art of Compromise Amid Crisis. So, in short, the secret was engineering a pressure cooker that vented internally, secrecy as the safety valve, elite buy-in as the frame, compromise as the release. It wasn't democratic, no public input. Slavery's baked in, but it averted the bloodshed that plagued other revolutions, such as France's guillotines a few years later. The real test came later. Ratification saw fistfights and threats, but the convention itself, a bloodless blueprint for endurance. If we're drawing parallels to today's gridlock, what secrecy rule might fix or break modern reforms? Let's go back to the 3 reasons. The ironclad rule of secrecy. On day 1, delegates unanimously voted to bar the public, shutter the windows to foil eavesdroppers, swear an oath of silence, no notes published, no letters home about debates. Washington, as a convention president, enforced it ruthlessly, even jailing a janitor for blabbing. This let hot-button issues like the 3/5 Compromise on slavery or the Connecticut Compromise on representation be aired freely without press mobs or state interference, turning it into a circus. As Madison later noted, secrecy fostered careful deliberation and compromise, preventing premature polarization that could have escalated to violence elsewhere, e.g. ratification riots in New York. Ratification riots? Well, did those lead to any bloodshed? The gag order lifted only on September 17th when the document was signed. What was the ratification riots in New York about? And did any other states see ratification riots happen? Because that's what I was asking you, Grok, whether or not it was bloodless, because you're going to upend the entire social order and nobody's going to be pissed off. Somebody's pissed off, but they're just going to let it go because it was like a roster of who's who of revolutionary heroes. You had George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, James Madison, Hamilton was there, and Pinckney. Mostly lawyers, planters, and merchants who shared a terror of anarchy. No radicals or rabble-rousers. They were the 1% of their day, united by self-interest and stability. Washington's mere presence, he could have been king but chose civilian rule, quelled egos and symbolized unity, keeping debates orderly despite marathon sessions. The art of compromise. Delegates arrived primed for urgency. The article's paralysis had nearly bankrupted the nation post-war. Heated clashes, large versus small states, were diffused by backroom deals, not ballots or brawls. Not ballots or brawls with committee shuttling proposals. This pragmatic horse trading fueled by shared fears of dissolution turned potential gridlock into progress without resorting to force. Okay, so now we're going to have to ask the question. What is a woman? Is a woman those human creatures with vaginas and booties and titties? Or are women the ones with the penises and not with the booties and the titties? The testicles and the penis, is that what a woman is? Or the vagina and the ratification the ratification riots in New York referred to a pair of violent clashes in 1788 tied to the heated debates over ratifying the U.S. Constitution. Okay, that's not fucking bloodless. I guess a riot could be bloodless. Did anybody die? That'd be my next question. But I'll just keep talking and reading until the 10-minute mark. Let's see here. So I got 1 minute. All right. Violent clashes, New York State Convention, bitterly divided, anti-federalist, not full-scale uprisings, but targeted outbursts. New York became the 11th state to ratify on July 26, 1788. That's all you need was 11 by a razor-thin 30 to 27 vote with a recommendation for amendments. 30 to 27, they barely approved it. And then 30 people in the New York Convention went ahead and chose the direction of the entire state of New York to go along with America. 30 fucking votes? How's that democratic? How's that like the consent of the people? The Albany riot, also called the Green Street Battle. This is July 4th, 1788. Just after the news of Virginia's ratification, the 10th state tipping the scales towards adoption. Federalist in Albany paraded with cannons and a federal tree, a liberty pole, unity. All right.